Okay, I do believe we are live. Welcome, everybody out there on the live stream. Thanks for joining our 30th episode of All Things TAC. As usual, I'm your host, Zev Nadler. I'm going to read this because I actually came up with what I think is the right thing to start this with. This live stream is very critical to watch if you're considering standing up your own TAC server in the easiest way possible for both the admin and the end users. One of the biggest challenges for agencies or any entity without an IT department is setting up your own server. This solution, depending where you are in the process, can be comprised of the following three components. InfraTAC, which is entirely free and open source software. Sorry, I'm just getting a couple of comments here. But you will need to pay for any cloud hosting fees if you deploy it to a live cloud environment. Now, I took a look at another TAC kind of software as a service company out in the UK, and they're literally charging £500 per month for up to 500 users. And that doesn't give you any administration. That's just having a TAC server up there. So by getting an InfraTAC entirely free with the open source software, that's amazing. The second thing is TAC Portal, as developed by Justin Davis, who we'll introduce shortly as well. It's a new open source TAC as a service management tool developed for managing backend server tasks and users. Access is completely unrestricted and it's free. And connecting the circle of value proposition, along comes Jason Esterline, first and foremost a friend, but also a great contributor to the Drone Responders TAC working group. And also always available to help me in anything I need related to TAC. He developed TryTAC so that you can try a TAC server experience by signing up for his iteration of using InfraTAC and Portal before you dive in. With that, I'd like to start by introducing our panelists, and we'll start with Justin. Justin Davis serves with the Hamilton County Sheriff's Office in Chattanooga, Tennessee, where he supports law enforcement technology and ops. With more than 3 years of experience at the Sheriff's Office, he works closely with patrol, investigations, and special ops to ensure they remain connected in the field. Prior to joining the Sheriff's Office, he spent 5 years volunteering with a local cave, cliff, and technical rescue organization, serving as an SAR member and technical rescuer. And, you know, I just got like 8,000% more respect for you, Justin, because cave rescue is just something that scares me, along with jumping out of perfectly good airplanes. He holds a bachelor's degree in engineering management with a minor in computer science from the University of Tennessee at Chattanooga. Within the TAC community, Justin is also widely recognized as a leader in TAC implementation, developing solutions and practices that have become models for public safety agencies nationwide. And he is the creator of TAC Portal, which you'll see today, a revolutionary platform that reimagines user management for TAC. Through TAC Portal, public safety agencies and others can efficiently onboard new users, scale their TAC deployments, and build a resilient foundation with the tools they need for day-to-day operations and large-scale mutual aid incidents. Justin, thank you for coming, and thank you for everything you do. I appreciate that.
Absolutely. No, I'm happy to be here. Happy to contribute any way that I can.
Awesome. Then we'll move on to Jason. Again, Jason is my friend first. He's also a dedicated volunteer leader in Tampa Bay's emergency preparedness and disaster response community. He's a licensed ham radio operator since 15 and an Oxcom trained, did I say that right? Oxcom?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Trained communicator. He brings specialized technical expertise to his work, supporting emergency operations across multiple orgs. Since 2017, he has served as an emergency management volunteer with Pinellas County government, supporting the Pinellas County Auxiliary Communications Service, or PCAX, a team that provides amateur radio comms during declared emergency community events and severe weather. And this is my favorite part. Since 2024, Jason has served as Director of Communications and a board member for the Help Now Project, or Florida Response Team Charities, Inc. It's a veteran-led nonprofit that deploys rapid boots-on-the-ground relief to communities across Florida through natural disasters. In this role, he manages critical comms within the organization's Tactical Ops Center, coordinating auxiliary communication efforts to keep responders connected during high-stakes situations. Professionally, Jason serves as president and small business growth consultant at Intuitive Performance Solutions, bringing over a decade of sales, marketing, and operations expertise that reflects the same strategic, service-driven approach he brings to his volunteer leadership roles. Jason, thank you for being on. Thank you for doing what you do. Appreciate you being here.
Thank you, Zev. I appreciate the opportunity to be here, sir.
All right. And now to the Reverend, affectionately known as the Reverend of TAC. AJ is a 31-year, might be 32-year. Is this an old bio? Is that 32 years now? AJ, what do you
I
say?
started in 93, so whatever that is, 33 years.
33 years. Okay, got to change that one. I guess you came on almost 2 years ago on my first show, so that's where that comes from. All right, so AJ is a 33-year fire service professional. His career has spanned federal, state, and local government. He started his career with the U.S. Forest Service in 1994, serving 5 seasons with the El Carissa Hotshots before transitioning to the California Department of Forestry and Fire Protection for an additional 5 years. He served the Corona Fire Department in California since 2005 and holds the rank of fire captain. For over a decade, he is deployed with incident management teams overseeing the Situation Unit, whose purpose is to gather all aspects of intel on an incident and share that info across multiple domains and help first responders in their decision-making process. He has a passion for geospatial mobile technologies. I think that's even his degree, and is part of the California FireScope Multi-Agency Committee on Emerging Information Tech. AJ is an advocate for Team Awareness Kit, Common Operating Picture Platform, and is a Part 107 UAS pilot. He holds a bachelor's degree in fire service administration and a master's degree in geospatial information technologies. AJ came across TAC in 2018, and subsequently the Corona Fire Department adopted its use for situational awareness. He runs the TAC Syndicate website, which I highly recommend you check out. Also his YouTube channel, it's chock full of goodness, and it helps to educate public safety and others on the use of Team Awareness Kit. He is also a TAC subject matter expert with Parsons. So welcome to all of you. Welcome, AJ. I appreciate you coming on.
Of course.
All right. I wanted to start with the sharing of the critical info, but before we start with that nitty gritty, I just kind of wanted to bring a personal experience as to why it's so important. In my own experience, I bought the Raspberry Pi, I got a touch screen, I got the power supply, I got the keyboard and mouse, and sat on it for a year, just too scared to learn about what I needed to do to set up a server. And thank God AJ introduced me to my friend Colt Christensen, who's a firefighter from Caledon, British Columbia, who's making TAC tracks up there. But InfraTAC simplifies that process with one command, and AJ will tell us more about that process and what comes next. But I'm told by Jason, who is an IT sorcerer, that it was really well done. But once that TAC server is installed, the user management interface is very rudimentary, and I've seen it. I've seen it before. The server that we use for Drone Responders Sandbox was modified to have a front end. And the TAC portal really makes it easy to manage, even assigning sub-management roles to admins who want to manage their own servers or users. And that allows multiple agencies on a single server, but within their own silos, from what I understand, with which to keep their data private. And then we're going to hear how Jason has leveraged these latest developments with TriTAC, a really easy to use service that I'm using now that supports ATAC, ITAC, TAC-Aware, WinTAC, WebTAC, and I'm sure probably others. And actually, this just came in from Colt, is that there's a group of them up there in British Columbia right now in the 11th hour, a full-blown burn the ships to take the island moment, on standby to launch TAC Mane for global fire at the Boston Bar Fire in British Columbia. It'll be the first team in Canada to take that leap. So, okay, lots of sidebars here, but I think it was all good information. So I guess we can start with Jason and InfraTAC. So take it away.
Actually, I think you probably mean AJ.
Oh, I did mean AJ. I was looking at AJ's face and I said Jason. Sorry.
It's all good. Just like all of these things are connected, and really to start just a brief history of like when I started with TAC. I first started on TAC. I started on what was well, it is CIDX today, but it was called Team Connect, and it was this idea at Par Government, who is the company that was now part of Booz Allen Hamilton, but back then was their own company, and they built ATAC, they built WinTAC, lots of plugins, but they didn't manage TAC server, and so they built a commercial server called Team Connect, and that's what I first cut my teeth on, and I saw this. A much nicer kind of front end and user management thing. And it was really cool. And we were a commercial customer for many years. And it is the right product for the right customer. But I started playing around with TAC Portal or TAC Server more, and really like the ability to really get into the guts of it and really do what I wanted to do without any hand-holding from the kind of commercial provider that I'm using. And so started playing around more with TAC Server, and I built a couple videos that are very popular on YouTube. Worked with Ryan Schilder, Paul Clifton, J.R. Glenn to kind of take the best of all these people's kind of skill sets and build these scripts and show people how to build a TAC server. And I'm in the middle of making a video right now, which I was hoping was going to be launched today. But as life goes, you can have goals, and sometimes life gets in the way. So I'm about 50% done with that video. But in making this video, I went back and I have a little slide in there like, well, how many views did I have on these first two videos I made? First one was 3 years ago, had 18,000 views of how to spin up a TAC server on CentOS 7. Then I made one a year later of how to put it on Rocky. It was Rocky 8 at the time. And that one had 22,000 views. And with that just came the vanilla TAC server, the vanilla TAC server port, user management, and did not come with an LDAP, any of those things. And so that was fine. But as we started to scale TAC and I started to learn a little bit more of how you can integrate with this with an open LDAP and things like that, seeing some of the work that Christian Elson had done with Authentic, I thought, man, there is a better way to do this. And that was just kind of a sidebar thing, just off to the side, just like, okay, the LDAP thing, the user management, there's a better way. But then about a year ago, the LLMs start hitting the streets, and ChatGPT and Claude and the Geminis. And I start using those to improve the scripts I had. Allowed me to take a lot of these ideas I had about something called Guard Dog to watch your TAC server. If something's going on, to restart it, to send me notifications. And I started just improving my ability to build scripts. And that was really helpful. Start up my own GitHub called TACWorks. And I started putting support for Ubuntu and all these sort of things. And then at that same time, my partner in crime, Mike Lecklider, across the hall from me at the fire station, was building this ADSB aggregator. And I was like, hey, this is pretty cool. And he's like, check this out. And I was looking at the code and how it worked, but it was managing it all from a website. And I thought, okay, that's pretty nice. And I would love to do this for MediaMTX. If you've ever deployed MediaMTX as a web server for streaming drone stuff, you have to edit a YAML file, and that's not a lot of fun. And I thought, well, why don't I just build a web front end to edit my YAML file? And so that's where that started. And it was funny. It was this progression of, well, here's my scripts of how to deploy MediaMTX. And then if you want to use an SSL with it, with Caddy, and a lot of this, I got to give Tim Reed some props. He helped me years ago with MediaMTX. And then I was like, and then at the end was, well, here, bolt on this web. If you don't want to edit the YAML file, I have this really cool web interface thing that you can do that. And that was cool. That was successful. And then it kind of the light bulb went off, was like, well, why am I starting with all this code and stuff? Why don't I start with a web interface and have it deploy all these things for me? And that was really the light bulb moment for what InfraTAC is. And I wanted it for TAC server. And I'd seen some other TAC server sort of user management. Some folks had done some things at the same time. Justin Davis is showing us some screenshots, hey guys, this isn't ready yet, but look what I built. That Christmas Eve story. I love it. And I thought, okay, this is cool. and I started looking at his GitHub, like, hey, how do you deploy this? And at the beginning, I was like, okay, this idea that you're going to do basically 3 lines of code, and you can just copy and paste it all in there and hit go, and then go directly to a web portal and deploy. At the beginning was just TAC server, TAC portal with Authentic, and my Medium TX. That was the very beginning. And what has spun out of there is, which is great about the TAC community, is all these other ideas. Our group coming together and say, well, why don't we add this module? Can you add this module? And the idea behind InfraTAC is Justin Davis creates TAC portal, and he maintains TAC portal. I don't fork his code. I don't do any of that. I deploy it. And what InfraTAC allows you to do is then get updates. I get an email that says, hey, there's a new update for TAC portal. I just go into InfraTAC and I hit update, and so on and so forth. So it's a deployer and a manager, and which allows really us to expand anything that we want. When Raytheon BBN built their new TAC video restreamer, it's on GitHub. Cool. I built a module for it. You can use that if you want. So a couple things. This was a selfish project, and I stole that from Justin Davis, because Justin had mentioned when he explained TAC portal to me that this was selfish, AJ. Like, really, I was looking at how I was deploying and how we wanted to scale across the county. I thought, there's no way I can do it the way it is now. Why don't I build something? And we have the same thing. I'm getting ready to leave the fire service. I could retire today. I want to try to hang on another 4 years. But I thought, I can't leave it the way it is. We need something better for maintenance. And yeah, with the kind of the vibe coding revolution and a lot of tokens, we got what InfraTAC is today, and a lot of help. This community is great. But yeah, it definitely has democratized how you can stand up a TAC server. And I can't wait to get this video done. I'm hoping next week. When I started this video, it's kind of like, if you've ever read that book, If You Give a Pig a Pancake to Your Kids, or If You Give a Mouse a Cookie. I thought, well, if I'm going to talk about this, I should probably talk about this. And this video just keeps getting longer and longer and longer. So I'm excited about it next week, but I can share what it looks like real quick. And it's on my GitHub right now. So you can go to TACWorks, TAKWERX, and there's the full deployment instruction there to how to get this environment set up. But what you're looking at right here is the console with a certain amount of modules deployed. But when you first deploy, it's just naked. It comes up and says, hey, here it is. You can register your domain name in here, deploy Caddy, and then deploy Authentic and TAC server and TAC portal and any of these other modules. So if you want to deploy Cloud TAC, or if you want to deploy a failed demand, all these are options for you. You do not have to deploy this whole stack. And the cool thing about it is this will work all the way down to a Raspberry Pi. Now, you may be constrained on what things you can deploy and get going all at once, or all the way up into enterprise, cloud service. And then in between, if you want to deploy this on a home lab, on a small computer board, it's irrelevant to it. It's just what you are trying to do with it. You need to make sure it has the right resources. But it's deployable on Ubuntu 2204 for now. I covered that in the video a lot, and we'll make a transition plan to 2404 by April. It's deployable on Rocky 9 and RHEL 9, and then it's also deployable on ARM infrastructure. So you can run any of the ARM instances for Ubuntu or Rocky as well. So that's pretty much it. What it is.
Yeah, I've got a question for you, but first, Herr Dr. Alex Joyce, and if you know him, he definitely deserves that doctor. He's just
great. I finally had the chance to meet Alex. I went to AppsCon, and Alex was down in Florida, so we went out with Amos and had a couple drinks, and it was great to finally meet him in person. He was my guinea pig. So he literally had a little server set up in his basement and really helped me iterate on getting on-prem solutions, because everything I had tested before was all virtual private servers, VMs in the cloud on SSD nodes. And so that was really my target at the beginning. And then he was my first, like, hey, I'm going to deploy this. And we walked through it, and he was such a sport. It was pretty funny. When he said in his basement, I thought he was joking. He literally like, no, this server's in my basement. So he was great. I can't give Alex enough props for bearing with me and being a good tester.
He's a great connector as well. It connected me with another very good drone detection professional. So really appreciate everything he does. So yeah, if you're looking for that URL, you can go directly to the comments, either in LinkedIn or YouTube, and copy and paste it.
And what you're going to see in this video coming up is I'm going to help you deploy. I'm going to start with, hey, you've got a small computer, a little Nook or something, and I'm going to deploy it on there. And then if you want to just use it for the cloud, you'll be able to just fast forward. But it's meant to walk some kind of like the lowest barrier to entry. I'm going to roll this at home on my own internet and walk people through how to do that. And then if you want to do this in the cloud, you can just skip ahead. So I wanted to cover it all. And then subsequent videos will come out for how the different modules work. But in this video, it will cover how to get it up and running, how to get email relay going, TAC portal, Authentic, and attack server. And you're going to be able to stand up an agency, and I'm going to show you registering a user over iOS and Android. That's where that video will kind of end. And then we'll build out other videos. I'm going to hopefully some community members might build little modules, video modules for me. I got some ideas. These videos are tough to do. That was part of yesterday. It was a lot of editing, and I finally just had some glitches and threw my hands in the air. Jason was telling me to go take a Sabbath and just don't worry about it. You'll get it done this week. But I really was hoping to have it done today. But oh well, is what it is.
AJ, you deserved a break, man. You've been one of the hardest working people in the TAC ecosystem for quite a while now.
No doubt about that. I'm hoping that after we get through Justin's explanation of TAC Portal and Jason yours of TriTAC, that we can then focus in a little bit more on how we get from the basement to the garage, and then from the garage into AWS or Azure or whatever you recommend. So at this point, Justin, why don't you continue now and tell us how TAC Portal takes in for TAC and just makes it so easy.
Yeah, absolutely. I kind of getting started with TAC. I'd like to take credit for about half of those 18,000 views on AJ's video because it was me just sitting there going back, watching it about 10 times over. I'd build it. Something would happen wrong, so I'd go destroy it, start back over again, just do the whole same process again over and over and over. Very cumbersome. So finally, get TAC server working. And I'm approached by my leadership at my agency saying, hey, we want to open this up. Let's get more people on from other agencies around the county. And I said, that's awesome, but I can't do that. Just with the tools that are in the box, straight out of the box from TAC. Those user management pieces are very, very minimal. You get username and a password, and then all the groups are, you're dragged in by hand. You can't rename them once you've created them. So many challenges so that presents. So just like AJ, I started kind of down this road, both with my agency and on my own of, going to these other paid solutions, kind of seeing what that cost looks like, looking for the best alternative. And with that, little did I know that I was gathering little bits of details and ideas that eventually kind of feed into what TAC Portal is today. But the underlying concept that, we kept seeing is all this reliance on LDAP and Open LDAP. So I said, okay, play around with it. I'd heard the name Chris Nelson a little bit, so I kind of messaged him a little bit. But then I downloaded Authentic, as well as Open LDAP and a few other LDAP platforms, and started messing with it. And initially, I was just looking at a solution just for myself. And I still say that to this day. I'm so glad that TAC Portal has benefited so many people, but selfishly, I built it for me. Everyone else just gets the bum off of it and give great ideas to make my own setup better too. So it's really, really neat. But yeah, so I started looking at Authentic. I was like, maybe it's just Authentic that we use. to do everything. And then eventually, the more I dug into that, I found that, okay, Authentic's nice if it's just me managing it, but I could not hand this to my boss and say, go create users, create groups, do all the stuff. And so that's when I started doing some research into APIs and that sort of stuff, and figured out, we can just build a nice looking front end on top of Authentic, let Authentic do all the heavy lifting, and we'll just use this pretty web interface to manage everything. So that's exactly what TAC Portal is. If you want to throw up a screenshot or two of it, that'd be awesome. But essentially, it's what I expected on day one of TAC. I expected to go in and be able to set up something like agencies, so that each individual entity on our server can have their own space. So by setting up an agency, you're setting up a delegated access. You set the agency full name, you set the abbreviation, you set how's the username built, as well as just kind of those core details about what type of agency is this, where are they, that sort of thing, and kind of establish those core fundamentals that are necessary for every single user. And then from there, once these agencies are all built, you get into things like group creation, user creation, and all this stuff is done kind of in a siloed environment. So you can create agency-specific groups that are just dedicated to that one agency. So something like AJ's driving the mouse for me right now to help out a bit. But he's creating a group just for this one agency, and this is not something that neighboring agencies will have access to unless you choose to give it. So you can do agency groups, global groups, county groups, state groups. Really, it's very flexible and very purpose-built and purpose-driven for public safety communities. Hopefully, a lot of the wording in here are wordings that law enforcement and first responders are used to using. Things that maybe won't get confused. So AJ's just showing us, a basic user creation. And the awesome thing about this too is, it's all connected in through InfoTAC's email server, or you can connect, directly in TAC Portal to an email server. But as you create each of these users, that can email them a setup link, and they'll just click that, and they can set their own passwords and do all that management themselves without you having to hold their hand and manually set a password for them, manually generate that QR code. It's super simple to generate all these things. So all the users actually get access to this Set Up My Device page, where they just select what device are they on, and it'll give them the links to download the app, scan the enrollment QR code, configure this is a QR code for their device preferences, so this will set the call sign, the role, the color, that sort of thing. And then you can even host your own plugins for the ATAC side in TAC Portal. So again, it's all about getting all these users just to one place to do all this, because again, with a standard TAC server, there's no way I could manage all the users for my entire county. I couldn't even do the password resets for half of the county. So this allows just delegated access. So right now what you're seeing on the left-hand side with all these tabs is what I call God mode, or global admin. But beneath that access level, we actually have the ability to delegate access out, so we can have agency admins. So I've got my command staff at my agency. They have access as an agency admin, so if they need to add someone or modify someone, they can without touching the neighboring agency's instance, or without seeing any of that data that they don't need to see. So super powerful in that regard. And you can even get really finite with that detail too. So it's not just simply global admin to agency admin. You can have even in between. I call it multi-agency admins. Great for like EOCs or emergency management agencies that need to be in there, kind of in the in-between. They don't need full God mode, but they also don't need a single agency. So it's really made to be flexible. And you can really tweak the exact access that everyone gets to TAC Portal. Many of these features also kind of keep you from needing to give out that TAC Portal UI to all those agencies. You're giving them a controlled environment where they can still access those same things on the TAC Server UI. In addition, man, there's just so much stuff. One of the things too, that's really cool about user and user management is templates. So as AJ is showing you now, templates are a really neat way to really customize mass deployments and also to update existing ones. So one thing that I do for all my guys that work with law enforcement, we'll have a template labeled patrol, and that's what all my patrol guys will get. And what that is a preset list of channels or groups that are specifically tailored for that access level. So once it's created, I can then create users with that template, and that is what they get. I don't have to go through there and manually select, 10 channels for every single user that I create. I just say, oh yeah, they're patrolman, and I select patrol. Later on down the road, if they get promoted to say SWAT or a detective or whatever else, I can just simply overwrite their existing permissions with a new template, and that will wipe out their current settings, give them all the new, and they're ready to rock and roll. I don't have to think at all about it. The cool thing too is if there's any groups or channels that you add after the fact, say that you want to give all patrol a new channel. That's super simple. You can do that through the template of just going into that template, adding that new channel, and then all of a sudden, 200, 300 guys in the field now have that new channel added to their devices without having to go into the TAC Portal UI or into the TAC UI and manually drag and drop that channel for tons and tons of people. So there's just so much power here. This handles everything from MOU documentation. Also has something called mutual aid, which is very powerful as well. That's getting enrollment done with a single QR code. So whenever you're showing up to an incident, if you've got surrounding agencies and people coming to help, they can simply scan this QR code or even have a PDF packet generated with all this info that can be posted at the command post. And then you can destroy this right after the event. Hitting delete removes all those temporary users. There's just so many powerful tools built in here. It just tons of stuff that I could talk for a long, long time about.
Beautiful. That was fantastic. Thank you. I want to go now to Jason. I have so many questions, but I want to save it to the end because Jason has put together TriTAC using these tools. And I am one of his users, and I find it very simple and easy to use. So what I'd like to do now is, Jason, why don't you give us an idea of what, why you made that decision to use those tools, how simple it was, and what it took for you to develop what you have developed, and who's using it. I mean, obviously the 501Cs that are into search and rescue and emergency management. I know that's your passion, and that's where you are currently using it, and people from there are using it. But tell us a little bit more about it.
Yeah, thanks, Ev. Yeah, like everything, this was necessity is the mother of all invention, right? And that we heard that theme. AJ needed a better way to do what he was doing, and he set out to do that. And same with Justin. And with Help Now Project, which is the nonprofit that I'm heavily involved in, we struggled with this very problem back a little more than a year ago. Actually, it started almost 2 years ago. And honestly, it was AJ that came to the rescue. AJ literally got on Slack with me and did a huddle, and he did the work to set up our TAC server for our group. And that was fantastic. So I've been watching what him and Justin were doing and seeing all the talk in the Slack groups about it. And I thought, I need to be paying attention to this because this could affect our organization at Help Now. So I started playing around. Instead of using our production TAC server that AJ set up for me, I went and started the new test environment, and I started playing around with InfraTAC and TAC Portal. And I didn't really commit to a long-term, VPS plan or anything. I was just paying month by month, which is considerably more expensive. And I was like, I was gonna burn it down. I didn't really need it. I saw what I needed to see. It was fantastic. And at some point I would find a migration path to get Help Now on it. And I got really thinking about it over 4th of July weekend. I thought, wow, it's a shame to burn this down. These guys have done such a good job, made this so easy to set up. How can I repurpose this and make it so that it means something to other people? And that's how TriTAC was born. I literally was reaching out to AJ saying, hey, what do you think about this? And he was like, I think it sounds great, but your domain name's too long. I'm like, okay, all right, fine. So, he gave me some great advice, and I really took it and just decided to take the tools that they built and offer this out there for the non-professionals, right? The CERT teams, the SARD teams, the ACS areas groups, the neighborhood watch groups, the church security teams, whatever the case may be, right? The folks that really need situational awareness but don't have an IT department or have the bandwidth to do this themselves. And that's essentially what TriTac is all about, is giving these folks a way to get started. I've spent a lot of time in the last year learning as much as I can about this environment, getting to know the people involved in it. And I'm telling you, it's one of the most amazing communities that I've ever been involved with, doing stuff. So it's exciting to offer this. And, I know you asked Zev kind of who's using it. Well, I won't mention names. I just literally signed up a UK SAR group this morning that found out about me somehow, maybe through drone responders. I'm not sure, but they found out about me somehow. And the guy's like, you know what? I've been trying to get a TAC server set up for a couple of weeks. I've been unsuccessful in getting it all done. And I just want to give this a try and see if it's something that we can use with our team. And guess what? In 3 minutes flat, probably even less than that, I went to the TAC portal, I got them approved, and now I'm just waiting for them to start onboarding people and reaching out if they need any help.
I personally enjoyed the process. I mean, your emails were concise, they were to the point. The MOU that I had to sign, it's very well done. Do you want me to bring that up on the stage and give us a little tour of TriTac?
Yeah, if you want to, yeah, sure.
Okay, great. Let's do that.
You have to forgive me for looking over at the other screen. I guess I can look at this one, but so this was literally just a project I kind of did over 4th of July weekend, because a decision had to be made. Do I get rid of this TAC server and stop paying for it, or do I go all in and pay for a year and do it? So I just built a quick landing page telling what it is and who it's for, and some basic things, right? A contact form. I would, of course, take donations for keeping it running, but that's not mandatory. I thought a system status page was good to have. You'll see a couple of blips here because I had to reboot the server this morning with a big update that happened and whatever. So it's just really straightforward. Oh, wrong page, sorry. It's really straightforward, and if somebody wants to get started, they literally go over here, they click on get started, and this page comes from TAC Portal, right? They fill out their name, their details, and they select if their agency is in this drop down, they can find it. If not, they say my agency isn't listed. They fill out a few more details, and that sends the request to me as the global administrator, and I can vet and sign up their account, and then they can manage their users after the fact. I think you're muted, Zev. Sorry.
I am. You're right. I was clicking my clacker. Trying to get somebody to put tritac.org up in the comments. For some reason, I'm not able to. Unless you do see it, it seems to be coming through from my YouTube account. But yeah, if somebody could put that up so people can get in touch with you. It is tritac.org.
Yes, sir.
I can show it from. It's interesting enough that I could show it up here, but okay. Great.
Awesome.
So there's a couple questions I wanted to ask. I want to go back to AJ. What does it look like taking it from the garage to AWS or Azure, to a cloud? What does that look like? What are people in for when they're going to go ahead and try that?
As far as migrating it, or just where do I start, or
migrating it in terms of effort, in terms of cost? What does that look like?
Migrating's on my list, so there is going to be a button to just send this whole thing somewhere else. I've got a long work order list for Claude, but as far as deploying it, it's all really the same. The only big differences between the cloud providers is if they have, and many of them do, have either an option or a built-in network security in front of it. So just like you could have a separate firewall at your home lab, a separate device running a firewall. Many of them like Azure, Google, Oracle, and AWS all have their own network security group firewalls in front. So there's a little bit more you have to do than just spinning up an Ubuntu box with its own built-in firewall that you deploy and open up ports. That's the only really big difference is when I hear people saying like, hey, this isn't working, I'll say, well, what firewall ports do you have open on AWS or whatever it is? And they're like, oh, I didn't open up 8890 or whatever. And all of that stuff's in the manual, so to speak.
But now we're coming back to having to have some form of IT experience.
Right.
Whereas prior,
If you're deploying, in AWS or Azure, you're gonna have to understand how to drive that a little bit, but that's not beyond a Google search of how do I set up my network security group in AWS or Azure. There are some other little things if you want to roll, a split server on both of those platforms or one of their built-in relational databases. Both AWS and Google probably does too, and Oracle, but all my testing has been on Azure and AWS for using their built-in databases. Again, you don't have to do that. It really depends on how big a deployment you have, how complex you want to do it.
If you're an agency with 100 users that go across different, territorial jurisdictions,
you don't need that. I would even say probably up to 1,000 concurrent users, you're probably fine on a regular deployment.
On-prem with your own firewall and not going up to the cloud?
Oh, yeah. You're good. It really, a lot of it's, and you'll see in the video I do, a lot of it's RAM dependent. Wow. And attack server runs on Java, and making sure that those Java processes have enough RAM so they don't run out of memory. Part of what I built for GuardDog way back when I first started, it was out of memory warnings and restarting the attack server when I got out of memory. So it didn't just jam up and just stall. It would notice, hey, you're out of memory, send an email out that says you're out of memory, and then restart the attack server. But actually, what's great about our community was just a question yesterday in Slack about some strategies for out of memory in Java. And State of Texas shared how they manage it. And I actually, right now, I have a new version of Infratech, what we call soaking on a couple of machines right now to test. I had Claude look at what we do for out of memory and what they do for out of memory and kind of the best of breed. So took some of the stuff. Thank you, Paul Brown over at Texas DPS for sharing what they're doing for managing memory and Java processes. So that is the great thing about this community is everybody really shares the kind of best practices or what they've learned, good and bad. Like, hey, don't do this, do this. Don't ask me how I know. Those sort of things. But really, it's not this dramatic change. So for someone from entry level that just wants to run a small little team, you don't need, if you want to run on AWS, that's fine. And I'll probably do an AWS episode one time.
Could you give us thank you. We'd love to have you on for that. Can you give us an idea though, what it would look like financially? If somebody wanted to server, they only have 50 or 100 users, they want to use it. What is their baseline to get into the cloud?
So in the cloud, I would say, let's just start at the basement, get a used NUC, probably 32 gigs of RAM. You're looking at 300-ish. RAM right now is expensive. It was shocking to me. I haven't bought RAM in a while. DDR4 RAM is wild, even used on eBay and Craigslist. But a used NUC with like an i7 processor on it, that's a few years old. There's plenty of them on eBay. You can get one for a couple $100, put in some RAM, put in a solid state drive, 500 gigabytes is probably where I'd start. You go up to terabyte. So you're all in sub 500. You can roll that all day, any day, doing video and everything else. If you want to get up into cheap cloud, SSD nodes, if you want to really bug them, Part of Guard Dog is it actually looks at the health of that provider or just any box that's running on, and we'll email you and say, hey, this isn't doing real hot. And then you have to go to SSD nodes and shake the tree a little bit and say, hey, your data center, this virtual server is having problems. And they're usually pretty responsive. The nice thing about Guard Dog is it tells you exactly what's wrong and you can just give it right to them. SSD nodes is pretty much, you're not going to find probably anything cheaper than what they do for a virtual server. And then you can go to Linode's, one of them. There's a bunch of other providers. And then you start getting the upper tiers like your Oracles, your Googles, your AWS, your Microsoft Azure. I would say you're probably going to be spending $300 a month, and then if you want to start doing snapshots and elastic containers that expand when you need more resources, you're spending more. So it really depends on what.
But that's a good baseline. That's a good baseline.
I've always,
yeah. Another question. When I came up in life, I started out as a computer technician fixing hardware, and this sometime about 1982. And then I saw that the programmers were making more money, and so I learned COBOL and so on. I was a programmer. Now, with artificial intelligence and Claude, is it true that all three of you, to some extent, coded this using artificial intelligence? Would you say that that's pretty
mine
much?
Mine is 100% vibe coded, 100%.
How about you?
Yeah, I'll go 95% with mine.
And Jason?
I'm just using what these fine gentlemen built.
Well, and I should say, like, what's cool and what I learned, right? So when I first was like, hey, I looked at these scripts, and I got to give some props out to J.R. Glenn, his My TechNet guide. So everyone should deploy a attack server from scratch one time, and really, or a few times, because then you understand what's happening, right? Like, I deployed it from scratch, and then I started getting hold of these scripts. Well, and deploying it from scratch will give you a whole new appreciation for this process, even just the scripts. Okay, these are what these scripts are doing. And then you go to like what InfraTac does today, which really is, it's these original scripts. Like InfraTac has Ryan Schilder, Milwaukee PD all over it. It's got Paul Clifton, Coconino County Sheriff, and J.R. Glenn, U.S. Marine Corps, like all kind of in the back end. But really the strategy with the vibe coding is I can talk to an agent and say, hey, look at best practices for this, even for penetration testing and cybersecurity. Now, Fable 5, it's pretty neutered right now. I was really excited about that. The government took it away, we got it back, and I can't ask it a single question about penetration testing or cybersecurity, or it just falls on its face. So it brings me back to a different model. But that's been really, I think, enlightening on what these agents are able to do. And you can give it documentation and say, look at this, as an example, this morning I took that post from Texas DPS and I said, hey, look at what we currently have built and what we're doing for out of memory and compare this. And it's incredible. Yeah, I took a couple Python classes, part of my master's degree. I am not a coder. I'm an end user. I understand the mission friction. I know what it's like to try to deploy this on your own and manage it on your own. It's tough, and it's very powerful when you get it working. But getting it working, if you don't have an IT department that's behind you, and you can't afford attack as a service, professional, this can get you up and running, and it might convince your IT department to get up and running. And I think there's a best of breed too, like where if you need TAC as a service help, you might not have to have them run the whole thing for you. You might have a professional on standby or a few hours a week, kind of a service level agreement to say, hey, we're running into some trouble. And then you've got this person to call, sort of like a lawyer on retainer, where you're putting it's in your cloud or whatever. They deploy it for you for a fee. And then you can, lean on these people when you need help. So there's every way to deploy this. Or you might want to go fully manage and go to any one of these providers and pay the full bill. It's what I've allowed you to do is at least get in and kick the tires. And what Jason's really allowed is for you to go in and kick the tires as an end user completely. What I've allowed you to do is go in and kick the tires as sort of a deployer and a system admin, and understand that side of it. Because what you see on InfraTAC is for a system administrator. That's not what a regular user goes and sees. And even like Jason was saying, or Justin was saying, and Jason was showing, Justin was like, hey, this is full God mode. What a normal or an agency admitter sees is not all those other tools. They're just standing up, hey, here's your environment. And the cool thing too is what I love about it is it allows us to keep an agency siloed so they can have their own privacy, but we open up channels for mutual aid or shared channels that they agree on. And just like a radio channel, just like we would go to an incident and say, we've got a multiple agency, we've got an incident that crosses 2 counties or 2 jurisdictions. One of the first things we try to get established is what is our comms for voice? And I see this next iteration is what is our comms for TAC? What server, what channel? If you're already on the same server, okay, winning. First, that's close. And now if you've got channels that are shared between you that you can go to and start having visibility, then you're good. And then from there, the mutual aid stuff that he built, data sync feeds on shared channels, now you're really doing some high speed stuff. So yeah.
Yeah, you can react at the speed of need with this, literally.
Speed of need. I like that.
Yeah, and one
And
thing
you
too
need it built before the event. Yes, you can spin InfraTAC up fast, but onboarding people, there's a little bit of, it's one thing to just scan this QR code and I can see where you're at. But if you want to start using it and sharing information, this sort of no notice stuff, you're going to get friction. And I don't care what app you're using, you're probably going to get some friction on like it working the way it should. And that's usually, it's not the app's fault, it's the users trying to navigate this stuff. And there's a little bit of understanding that it has to occur. So if you can start with a no notice and just know that I can scan this QR code and I've got visibility of someone, and then contributors to the map might take another 15-minute lesson before you send them out in the field of kind of how this works.
Justin, you were going to add something?
Yeah, I was going to add on to the kind of what AJ was saying before. My deployment's also a little bit unique, as in I use InfraTAC for all the things that I don't want to do by hand. So some of the things like Authentic or TAC Server, like those are actually running by hand, fully manual. But then InfraTAC is all the little sprinkles on top for the extra stuff that I don't have the time or care to do. I just want it now. So it really can be, to his point, it really can be flexible to different settings, different instances. One thing on the vibe coding side, just talking about like that authentic setup and stuff, doing it by hand takes me about an hour, and that's following exact notes that I have from previous deployments and things like that, whereas InfraTAC does that in just a matter of minutes. There's a lot of manual configuration that has to go into authentic. That's partially why I'm just keeping it the way it is at my agency, because I did put all that work in, and I can't take myself to tear it down yet. It's going to go to InfraTAC one day, but I can't take myself to do it yet. So, but you really can start mixing and matching, existing services. And the cool thing about Authentic too is for larger agencies that have OAuth through Microsoft, through Google, through those big providers. Obviously, multi-factor authentication is becoming a bigger and bigger topic. You can connect Authentic into these. I actually know of a few agencies doing this. So again, it's a really future-proof tool. That even if TAC Portal, I don't see this happening, but even if TAC Portal goes and dies, you still have that core back end of Authentic, where someone else can just come in and make an even better TAC Portal 5.0, or whatever the case is.
That's not going to happen.
Really it's
Justin,
not going to,
but
it could.
To your point, I think that is on identity management, especially on the law enforcement side, becomes very important. For fire, for us, our devices are assigned to the apparatus, and they're not assigned to an identity. The identity is the apparatus. And Justin built me something for that on a drive to work one day. I was like, hey, we need to talk. And it's going to be too hard to explain what I need over a Slack message. So ours are assigned to an apparatus, but many on the officer side, law enforcement, they're assigned to the identity of the person. So they need their user account is assigned to that identity. Like we don't sign out of even our CAD on our fire engines. They're very similar. It's assigned to the apparatus. There isn't individual identities when we log in at the fire department. Shifts come and go. That thing stays signed in. It's always engine one, you know. So but for law enforcement, that's important because a lot of it, especially, you know, the identity management of what's going on that phone. And we're talking about managed devices. In a professional organization, you're most likely going to have a managed device. There's some sort of management that is happening on that government issued, government furnished GFE equipment. And so what's cool is you don't have to recreate all of these identities. And Justin, we should do that sometime. We should, when things settle down, but it'd be cool to make a video of how to tie in. Authentic's really good is you could bridge multiple identity providers into Authentic. And so you could bring, hey, agency A's, they're using Microsoft as their identities. And over here, they're using Google. We can bring all of those in through Authentic as the kind of the plumbing. You don't have to recreate all these identities. So that is neat about Authentic. And, you know, it does have an enterprise if you want to roll the full enterprise and pay for it. But the free version has a lot of capability in it already. And the full of what I really like too is the ability to do a full on custom front end with, you know, your own custom graphics. You can really make it look very professional.
Yeah. All right. I want to take the last few minutes that we have to talk about 3 different items. First of all, shout out to droneresponders.org. If you're not already part of droneresponders.org, you should sign up. It's totally free. And on there are several different working groups that you can be involved in. My team heads up the TAC working group. So that's where, you know, you can kind of go to get some information, ask questions, and so on. That's been working out very well. We have, I think, 240 agencies on board right now. So then another one, which is great, is our Counter UAS working group. And I just want to bring something up real quickly here to show what some of the benefits are being a part of drone responders. So they recently put up this PDF, which tells you, you know, drone harassment, know your rights and your legal remedies. And it is really quite involved and perfect. I mean, it answers any question you might have about getting a protective order. You know, everybody hears like, oh, if you swipe a drone down, you're going to be in big trouble. You're going to, you know, it's against the FAA, it's against the FCC and so on. But this really helps you, not just as law enforcement, but for an individual. There's guidance for prosecutors and judges, just really, really good stuff. So I highly recommend becoming a part of Drone Responders and then joining in both the CUAS and TAC working group. I also wanted to talk a little bit about some noteworthy TAC things going on. So Alex Gorsuch's Weird TAC code base is now up on TAC.gov. What this means is that they are reusable templates similar to ATAC's Hello World for building your own WeirTAC plugins. It also means that you can download WeirTAC through TAC.gov instead of what Alex called his sketchy Google Drive link. 2 of the massive changes in there are maps and physiological alerting, as well as, maps in itself has been really improved, and physiological alerting as well. I'm going to, and because I can't for some reason do it where I want to do it, I'm going to put it up and see if we can get one of you guys to put it up as well. Let me just see what happens here. All right, I'm going to put it in chat. And whoever can get it up quick, I would appreciate that. So yeah, if you go there, you'll see the LinkedIn post that Alex did, where you're going to get all the improvements and information and so on. Another thing that you can do, actually, I want to bring that up as well. He put up an amazing manual. This is the first time I've seen a really perfect manual for WeirTAC. So let me bring that up. So you can see on the side, how many how many sections there are. It really is quite deep. I have one, and I haven't used, maybe more than 20% of it. So you definitely want to get a hold of that, and hit that LinkedIn, get in touch with Alex, and he'll tell you what next steps are to get it. The other thing I want to mention is on previous shows you might have seen me interviewing Certus Innovation, and let me just get that off the page there 1 second. Okay, so Certus Innovation is collecting acoustics related to drones and gunshots to be put into TAC. So there's another group out of University of Colorado Boulder that is also part of this effort. And so twice I've already been to a location near Joint Base McGraw-Dix, and then recently the Warden 2026 at Fort Hill in Southern Virginia, where we were doing acoustic collection, actually hanging a bunch of watches all the way down range so that it could pick up, different drone sounds. And the drone sounds are just, straight level, but then also pitched forward at high speed. What does that sound like? And then if it's laden, and so your propellers are slightly, I'm taking all that weight, what does that sound like? And all of those acoustics are going to be put into a library that now anybody wearing an EUD or a watch, their microphones can pick it up, whatever AO they're in, and can start sharing with each other what might be inbound, what might be shooting, and where it might be. So that's really super cool. As a matter of fact, tomorrow I am hosting the University of Colorado Boulder team out here at a long 600-yard range in the Poconos, and bringing all my rifles and all my handguns, so 11d6 of them. And they're going to be shooting, or I'm going to be doing the shooting for them, but they're going to be collecting the acoustics signatures for many different grains, many different cartridges, whether the minutes of angle are 24, straight, this way, that way. So it's really quite an effort, and all that's going to be available in TAC, both for warfighters and public safety. So that's extremely exciting.
Very cool stuff, Zev.
Yeah. Do you guys have any knowledge of that, AJ or Justin? Have you known that this was happening, or do you have any comments on how beneficial that would be? Or?
Yeah, the acoustic stuff's been around for a couple of years. People chasing that. Different plugins I've seen over the years, different companies, Certus being one of them, trying to improve situational awareness through microphones, basically microphone on your EUD, or putting up microphones in an area, or leveraging existing microphones that are that might be already like embedded in a camera somewhere, but you have it turned off because you don't want to use the camera. And there's a couple commercial efforts too I've seen where I forget the name of the company, but one of the ideas is that imagine going to a concert and you download the concert app. With that comes an opt-in to grab the speaker or the microphone. And the idea being that if something was to occur, like gunshots, now you've got crowdsourcing off people's personal phones as well at a concert. So that was I thought was a pretty novel idea, to be able to of course, the opt-in, right? And people are worried about privacy, right? But what are they listening to? Are they really listening to gunshots? Or are they listening? But that sort of premise that you can have, every phone is a sensor, and being able to leverage a lot of the sensors are already on the device. They've already got, on their person. So yeah, awesome. That concept, of course, for people downrange, for us, we don't care, right? It's government furnished equipment. You're tracking where I am anyway, so let's turn on the microphone and get whatever we can out of it.
Right. Okay. We've had some great comments in the comment section, which live in perpetuity. So if you want to go on demand to get the this video, you can do so off the LinkedIn, off of my personal LinkedIn account. And I guess I'd like to end with having some final statements from each of you. And we can say goodbye after that. So Jason, why don't you give us your final thoughts on this?
Sure. Thanks, Zev. Appreciate you having me on again. It's a really exciting time to be doing the things that we're doing. These guys being pioneers in this rapid development of things to make this ecosystem easier to get into and use, I think is very much understated at this point. And we're seeing lots of rapid development happening, and we saw some really cool stuff around, taking video feeds and pictures with your phone and feeding that right into the situational awareness inside of TAC. So amazing things happening there, and the list goes on and on. So it's an exciting time to be here, and I appreciate all the work that you guys have put in, every single one of you, and excited to see what the next several months holds.
Thank you. And Justin, final remarks?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you again so much for having me. I just appreciate the chance, to help others. That's ultimately what this is all about. So it's really neat just to see, TAC Portal started as about 5 or 6 pages back on Christmas last year. And now it's grown to easily over 25 with so many more features than I could have ever thought of myself. So just kind of want to say thank you to those as a whole that use it. If you're a part of the TAC Slack, you'll see every single day almost people are having ideas of different ways to do things, additions to have to TAC Portal. So that's very helpful, and that's really what makes it what it is today. So having this open to the community is obviously the way it will continue to be. But I'm very appreciative, not only to you, but just to everybody that uses it and is a part of this community.
Thank you. That's awesome. And Reverend, a final benediction, please.
Excuses are over. It's never been easier to do this on your own or with a little bit of help from your IT department. I invite people. Our Slack group is closed, but it's meant to keep kind of that public safety folks in there. If you're a public safety agency, you can grab me. We're happy to get you in there. Or if you're a nonprofit like Jason is, helping folks out. And it's not meant to be gatekeeping, but the idea being that these are real missions, real outcomes, and really that to build on top of like Justin said is this is a community effort, and everybody is in there to help everybody. And to echo what he said, he started with 5 or 6 pages of TAC Portal, and now it's 20. Same thing with InfraTAC. It started as just 3 modules, and now there's all sorts of modules. And we got folks forking the code, building modules, contributing back, which is great. It takes a little bit off of my plate, but it's a testament to the community together building this out. And to help see everybody win. So don't be afraid to suck at something new and give it a try. It's never been easier than it is right now.
Hear, hear. Brilliant. Perfect ending remark. And we look forward to having you, when you're ready to show us the actual porting over and so on, as you mentioned earlier in the show, maybe getting it up on the cloud, what that looks like. So that would be great.
Fantastic.
All right. With that, thank you everybody for joining. The comment section will always be open, so we hope to hear more from you. Take care.
Thanks, everybody.